Asia. You are tuned into the Kickback DMV, and today I have with me
Zamina Williams.
Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. We actually met in the parking lot, and I didn't know. I told her I was a little bit shy, so I didn't say nothing, but we ended up crossing paths.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna ask her a couple of statements. She's gonna tell me if she agrees or disagrees, and then tell me why. But before we get into that, y'all need to know who she is and what she does. So tell us.
Absolutely. My name is Zamina Williams. I'm the President CEO of Onyx Consulting Services. We are a system and software development company that services the federal government. We work with some of the companies that you've come to know, Leidos, Google, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and a lot of the agencies that you're also probably familiar with throughout the Department of Justice and Department of Defense.
This boss lady right here, I'm just happy to be in the presence, okay? Let the knowledge just flow on your girl. All right, that sounds good. We just gonna jump right into it. Speaking engagements are motivational, not transformational. You leave on a high and the next day you back to regular life. Do you agree or disagree?
They can be both. I know I should answer one or the other, but it really just depends on the speaker. When I think about church, you know, and the speaking that I received, you know, at church, that was transformational for me. It changed. It was life changing. And then there are other times where you're just on a high, and then the next day it's like that. So it really depends on the speaker, you know, how they speak to you, how relevant it is to your situation currently. But I think if with the right speaker and the right circumstance, it can be transformational.
So in regard to a speaker, what components should they have in order to make that transition from just talking out loud to actually seeing people transform after being in your presence?
Meeting people where they are, being relatable. I think in order to be an effective speaker, you have to speak to the hearts of people, and you have to know your audience. And so I think that, you know, if you're speaking for yourself and to yourself, then they might like how you sound, but they walk away and it's not food. Almost like, you know, cooking, or, you know, you cook to someone's palate. You figure out what they like, and you want them to enjoy it, and you want them to swallow it, and so you cook it to their liking. And I think speaking is very similar. If I know I'm speaking to a group of women, that I want to talk to them as, I want to be relatable. I want to be relatable as a woman and a mother and so forth. And, you know, hopefully it's the right timing of speaking and circumstance, and they absorb. Okay,
look, if you want to be a speaker, take her advice. I actually missed it, so I didn't get to see her speak, but would you categorize yourself as a transformational speaker?
I like to think so.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly try, you know.
So after they left, do you, or you left, do you feel like I probably stuck, you know, I stuck something in there and somebody's going to do something different? And if they are, what are you expecting these people to do after listening to you?
I think the one thing that I hope that I stuck was that success is not an overnight thing, and that even though you can look at a panel of successful entrepreneurs, that this is not, it doesn't happen overnight. And so don't be discouraged if you try something and you fail, and you try something and you fail. Many of the most successful people we've come to know have tried and failed. And that's just all a part of the process. And so if anything, I think, you know, that stuck with people was the fact that this is somebody who is fairly successful in their entrepreneurship, and they're sharing with me that failure happens. And it's okay.
And it's okay.
It's okay. Just
get
dust
out
off,
there.
and you get up, and you go back out.
Okay, that's what we're talking about today. All right, this next one, the success or downfall of the Black family is based on the mother or wife of the family.
I disagree. Okay. So I am in a program called Leadership Maryland, and I recently visited a correctional facility in Cumberland, Maryland, Roxbury, and I got to speak with the warden and commissioner and learned that 71% of the inmates there were Black men. And I got to speak with some of the inmates, and, you know, I wanted to understand root cause. Like, there's just no way, there's no coincidence that 71% of these inmates are Black men. Like, that's just, what is it? And so the underlying root was poverty. And so when you think about dual income households, you need a mother and a father.
Amen.
Fatherless households, fathers are needed. Fathers are important. It doesn't even matter if they're 100%. They're important. They have to exist. And so, you know, it rests on the mom. Typically, you know, you hear so many single moms, but fathers are equally important. And what I found was a trend across the board with most of the inmates that I spoke with. They were fatherless households. Some of them were raised by their grandmother. They had needed that. And it turned into other things. It manifested in other ways. You know, not having that love or that care. So it's both.
Do you feel like the Black community has lack of knowledge when it comes to finances?
Yes. I think that it's hard, you know. I think finance and being financially responsible it's almost a generational lesson. You're taught that. And so there's a book out, that came out maybe about 20 years ago, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
And a lot of people really love it, and you read it and you're like, okay, for some of us, that was the first time we knew, that these were the practices and things that you should implement, because unless you had a parent that had resources, how would they ever teach you? If you have a blue collar worker as parents and, they're living paycheck to paycheck. So put up what? You got a point. You got to be taught to have money. And so, I would say that the lack of resources, the generational poverty, not saying that all people come from poverty, but by and large, African Americans are, the average African American family has 15,000 to other races where it's above 100,000, and that's a fact. And so you look at that and you're like, well, yeah, in order to be taught and know, you have to have. Right. And so we're learning. Now we're educating ourselves. We're educating each other, tax planning and investing and real estate. And for some of us, that's a first generation thing.
So how do we move our people from being in poverty to at least middle class, making it to upper class? Like what's the division there?
So many things. I would say I would start with education though. Education is the great equalizer. And even though, I'd be wrong in saying that you're not going to face any discrimination. There's no glass ceilings, even when you get the PhD or master's. That's just not true. There is still discrimination. You can be the smartest person in the room and still have obstacles, still have roadblocks, but it can't be taken away from you. And you can use it as a tool to do so many different things, specifically build wealth. Right. And so I would say, just encouraging, and even for people that may not be academically inclined, you go into a trade, you learn entrepreneurship, you become a master of your craft. You have to learn, always. When you stop learning, you stop living. There you go.
Dang, that was a good one right there. I'm gonna have to write that down, put it in a notebook. Okay, and then lastly, it's not a statement or anything, but you spoke on education. How do you feel about when people meet a Black woman like you and they put the title educated Black woman? How does that make you feel?
So you mean like if someone of another race says that?
Yes.
Educated Black woman? Where I'm from and the types of interactions I have, it doesn't even matter. You would think it would. You think they would say, "Oh, she's an educated Black woman," right? No, they don't say that. It's one of those things where it's always assumed that maybe you don't know as much as we think you know. And that's unfortunate, right? But it's just true. That's just been my experience. And so I just don't worry about the title. I don't worry about that. I read, I empower myself. I try to be the best at everything that I do. And I walk in my power.
Amen.
That's all I can do.
Okay, I'm really thoroughly enjoying this. And before we get out of here, just this one last thing, if you can leave us with some words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. I would say that everything for me is a spiritual journey. So God is so much a part of everything that I do. And I see God in my purpose. I see God in the things that I do and don't do. And so I would just say, everything for me starts with your faith. And whatever your faith is. Submitting to that higher power, meditating, focusing, and executing. And just having that discipline to do it day in, day out, consistency. And I feel like that's the recipe for building. That's the recipe for becoming exceptional. And that's the recipe for doing well, doing good in life. I think that would be my advice.
I like that. Yes. Pour into God, devote daily, be
Pray.
Disciplined, pray. Pray. Like for anything, some people find it difficult to pray. And it's like you can literally just thank God the fact that you woke up, that you're able to walk. Just have that conversation.
And starting your day that way too.
Starting your day that way, because then it sets the tone for the rest of the day. Amen to that. Amen. I am Diamond B. Frazier, and this is
Zamina Williams.
And you are tuned into the Kickback DMV. Peace.
Peace.